have a question, is just enter it in the chat and we'll try to answer it during class. And so today's class is beaded garlands. So a really fun complement to the candle votive class that we did the week before last is to create these really fun decorative garlands. I've seen people use them on dining room tables, wrapped around cabinets, or like on an entry table around like their Santa village or just whatever decor you have out, whatever season it's in. You can make one for any season. And so we thought we'd make a seed beaded version with tassels. This is pearl cotton, DMC pearl cotton, and it looks gorgeous on the end of wax linen. And we're using size 6 seed beads. So I'm going to go ahead and switch my camera so you guys can see the project in some detail. There we go. Just going to wait for that to come into focus. And so the project is created in two different ways. You can use 4 strands and it'll give you a little beaded bundle that's 4 strands, or you could also make a longer 2-strand version. And what I tried to do with these versions was see how much I can make with 1 tube of seed beads. And again, that's size 6 seed beads that we're using. So I'm going to go ahead on that note and lay out all of the supplies. So you can use a mix or a solid color or a mix of solid colors, whatever colors you're going for, of size 6 seed beads. You'll need some wax linen cord. And these are, I think they're called collapsible eye needles. And this is the version that's heavy. They have a couple different sizes. This one is the best one for wax linen because it's thick, and the smaller ones might not be strong enough after many repeats through the beads. So I'd go with the heavy for that. You'll also need some knotting tweezers. Now you can do it without knotting tweezers. You could also use a beading awl if you're a fan of using an awl. That will work as well. And then right at the end, we're going to bring in some pearl cotton. And this is how they are at Michael's. They're size 5. And I'll have you guys help me choose the color at the end. I was debating between those 3. So when we get to that, we can choose. All right. And the only other supply I haven't shown yet is regular scissors. These are precision scissors. And you'll need a tape measure. Okay, so measuring. The one I'm going to recreate today is the shorter length, just because it's quicker to finish in the time we have. This is a beaded length of 13 inches. And so to create that, we are going to be using more thread than 13 inches. What I noticed is that a repeat of, I believe it was either 3 or 4, uses about 5 inches of thread. So for one this length, we cut 36 inches, and that's the beaded length plus 7 inches on either side to do the tassel. So again, for this length, 36 inches will do really well. So I've already pre-cut my cords, but what you'll want to do is open up the wax linen and measure 36 inches, trim it, and then you can use that cord to measure 4 of them. And if you're doing the 2-strand design, you only need to do 2. But just cut 4 strands, 4 separate strands at 36 inches in length. And then bring the ends together so that they line up. And then we're going to want to measure about 7 inches up from the bottom of those strands. So about there. And so overhand knots, the way I do them, there's lots of different ways to do an overhand knot, but what's easiest for me, what I tend to fall back on, is to use my 2 fingers to bring the thread over, and then I bring the thread around and behind and through. And if I've got somewhere where I want the thread to stay, meaning I don't want it to move when I pull, I will pinch the 4 strands. So see, I went through the loop with my tweezers. And then I'll pinch the 4 strands at my 7-inch mark that we just measured and pull tight. And it just kind of holds it in place. Now I'm going to take both ends and pull tighter. And I'm going to separate 2 sides, make that extra tight. And so for now, we're just going to leave these tails alone. Later, that's what we're going to use to put the tassel on. So the next step is we're going to need to take those needles. And this comes with 4, which is perfect for this design because you're going to need one for every strand. It's just easier. Otherwise, you'd have to keep switching your needles from strand to strand. So what I'm doing is just putting them on each strand here and folding it over. I'm going to set that one aside. Repeat that for the next one. Here's my third. And I've got one more. Okay. And now for seed beads. I chose these 6-0 red and 6-0 galvanized gold. And the next thing you're going to want to do is string. My design has 4. You don't have to do 4, but I liked the look of 4, so that's what I did on mine. 4 seed beads on each strand. And you'll bring it down to the bottom. And you'll find that they kind of tangle up a little bit, but if you pull them in the direction, all in the same direction, it's a little easier. So there's one. And that just kind of helps them slide down. You do want to try to get them as close to the last knot you made as possible. There's that one. I'm going to get one more. And the needles should stay in place on the ends of each of your strands pretty well if you fold them over. That's the nice thing about wax linen. I just got a little tangle here. Okay, I'm going to choose a strand. Got it. And so I think for my next one, I'll do gold. And sliding that one down. There's 4 red ones. And then 4 gold ones. And so once you have all of the beads on each of the strands, just give them another little push so that they're close to the knot. And we're going to do another overhand knot just like before. Bring all those strands through. And then get those tweezers again, or your beading awl if you're using that. And I'm pressing pretty tight against the top of the beads. And so already that's a pretty good knot, but I want the beads to form more of a rounded shape. So to do that, I'm going to separate the strands and pull tight. And you watch those pop into place. And on a 4-strand design, you could even individually pull on each one of these. And there's one. And so that's the whole step. I'll do a few more just so you guys can get a hand of seeing the knot. And oh yeah, and another trick. So after every knot, you're going to have the need to separate each of your strands. I find it a lot easier to do that at the top if I lay them flat. So I brought this to the top, laid them all flat, and I'm separating out each one just to try to avoid it getting too tangled. And then load 4 seed beads onto each strand. Okay. So I've got those 4. And I'm going to hold the needle bundle here at the top and just try sliding them down this way. And every time it starts to tangle, pull tight again this way. Okay. Same thing again, crossing over. Pull it through. And then find your tweezers. Here they are. So I'm going through the loop here. And then I'm grabbing all 4 strands at the top of the beads. Kind of push down, get them to be tight. And then pull. There we go.
Hi, Danielle, it's Carmi.
Hey.
You have a question from the sidebar.
Sure.
When you're adding the 4 color beads, are you looking to see on the string if you're following the colors that you put on the 4? Like if
No.
No. So you're just
No, but you could. But it's going to be different. It's going to be different every time.
Okay.
Because the knot just is kind of like a reset button for which one is coming out and which side.
That answers the question.
What you could do though, if you really wanted it to be like, for example, all gold on one side, red on the other, each time after you've done your knot, you could kind of look at which one's on top. Like for me, my strands here, these are going to be my top ones and these are my bottom. So I could try to see if I can make that happen. Let's see if that works. It's a good question. Okay, I'm gonna need a few more beads. I used all my beads up. Last class, I dumped out a bunch and they went everywhere. So you're keeping them in small piles this time. Here we go. And so let's see, I'll try to mimic this and make gold the top and see if it works. Okay. Here's my other top strand. It's this one right here. I'm going to put 4 on there. Okay, and so this one should be my bottom strands. So let's see what happens if I make those red. Okay. So I'm going to bring these down and then bring the top strands down. There's that overhand knot again. Through the loop and then pinch all 4 strands. Let's see if I got it. There we go. Okay. Trying to keep those guys on the top. Okay. And yeah, that worked. That worked. Sort of. Twisted a little bit, but when I tighten it, it might even look a little better. Sort of. It spun a little bit. You can see it kind of turned, but the effect is still there. So I think it looks neat like that. And it might even, I don't know, it might even spiral. I wonder if we could get it to do that. That's a cool idea. I'm going to make a few more knots, maybe let's say 2 more knots. And then we're doing great on time. I could start another one if anyone needs to see the beginning again, or I can just keep going, or we could add a tassel. I could show the 2-strand design. So be thinking about that for a second. And if you have an idea, drop it in the chat. Okay, there's 2 more there. Oh my gosh, look, the sun is coming out in Seattle. I have to close that. There we go. Earlier today, we had overcast and rain and wind, and so I had all of my lights on, and now the sun is just blaring through the window. Wasn't I expecting that? Okay, here we go. So here's that knot again. Okay, and this is a good spot to show measurement. So I've done 4 repeats. I think that I must be doing it tighter today, but that should be about the same as 3 inches or so. It's looking like 2.5 for me now. We'll do 1 more. Yeah, so this is a really fun project. And also just kind of a relaxing one. Okay, so there's 4 more. I'm going to show that knot one more time. And pull tight. All right. And so there should be about, let's see. For some reason, my measurements are going a little over today, but a little over 3 inches for that. Okay, so let's see. I could start and show, I could show a 2-strand design. I could put the tassel on, since that's probably something we're gonna wanna repeat a couple of times. Yeah, it sounds like a good idea. We'll start that. And is this color good for everyone, or do you think the yellow would be easier to see?
Yellow.
The yellow, yeah. Let's go with that. So let's say I kept knotting, which you would want to do for, your desired length, which could be, whatever you'd like it to be, leaving 7 inches on this end to put the other tassel on. But let's say we did that. Now you're going to want to separate these 2 strands. And then pick up your cotton, pearl cotton. Get these 2 beads out of the way. And remove the little covers. They should just slide off. And so most of the ones I saw at the shop were coiled. So to uncoil them, start at the the bottom that's separate here. I'll show you guys there. There you go, sorry. And then just go like this. And keep track of that top part. We're going to use this to make 2 tassels. And so this is the top fold. I don't know if I can get that all in the field of view here, but this was the top fold and this is the bottom. And I'm just going to cut this top fold here. And we're going to straighten the bottom of the tassel out, so don't worry too much about it being perfect right now. And I'm going to set one of these aside because they're going to become the other end. And now find the center point on this one. Which for me was right there. Yeah, I think that'll work. Okay. All right. And so lay the middle on top of the strand. So I've got 2 going this way, 2 going this way. And then we're going to just do another one of those overhand knots. So over the fingers and then pull the tails through. Here we go. So this is just like we did with the beads before, but now I'm treating this top of the tassel as my beads. And pushing down with tweezers. I've got all 4 strands in the tweezers here. And the tweezers are going through that circle we made, that loop. And pull tight. And the same as before, just gonna, and there we go. And so you'll notice the bottom, one side of the bottom of my tassel is still, it's still in a loop. You could trim that now or you could trim it at the end. Very often what I do at the end is I'll take like a greeting card or even like a, gosh, like a little, like a piece of plastic or vinyl and wrap it around so that you get this end and then trim this end, just like a haircut. So lots of different ways you can do the bottom of the tassel, but for now, I'm gonna worry about the top. So here's my knot that we just made. I'm gonna hide the knot in the center here. And bring that strand over. Okay, and what you wanna do with each of these sides is cross them. So bring one over the other. And just kind of hold them in place for the second. Flip it over. Do the same thing on that side. And so you can knot it here if you'd like to. I always keep going a little longer, make it a little thicker. So just cross that way. And flip it. And cross that way. I think I like that. That looks good to me. So I'm going to do another knot. Bring all 4 strands together here. Bring that through. And if you wanted to make that thicker, leave more than 7 inches of cord when you start. Like if you wanted to just wrap around and around, that would work too. And now what I'm doing is grabbing all 4 of those strands again so I can tighten this part. And then pulling the strands apart. And if you've got bunches in your knot like I do over here, pull each strand by itself. That can help a lot to get rid of those little bunches. I'll separate that one. All right. And then the next step would be to add a charm if you wanted to. And I have a few here. I'm gonna go ahead and grab them. See, I'm gonna put one of these little owls on. So many cute charms to choose from. Look at this red owl here. And so I'm grabbing tweezers right now. I'm gonna get bent nose and flat nose. That's my go-to for jump rings. And these charms come with your jump rings, so you don't have to worry about getting a matching one. And I just remove it right from the card. So I pinch that side. There we go. Other side here. All right. And so I'm going to close this right back up. Let's straighten that out. Okay. And so now I'm going to put two of the strands through my jump ring. And then just do the same thing again here. It's knotting. I'm going to flip it this way. It's easier for me to knot from the right side. So my strands are getting a little tight, so I can't wrap them around my fingers anymore. So what I'm doing is just kind of going in this direction. Bring that one through. Whoops. There we go. I'm starting over. There we go. I've got one strand that's a little too long. It's confusing me. I'm going to trim that. One more. Almost have it. There we go. Okay, tweezers. All right. And the reason to do overhand instead of just tying a double knot is because you want it to hang so that the charm's a little suspended. And that's how I did this one over here. Same exact process. And so the trimming, take like I said, a greeting card or something similar. You could even use this container that came with the needles. And put the tassel in it. And then just kind of roll it. I don't know. There's a staple in mine, so I'm trying to avoid that staple. There we go. Okay, so that should work. And then it gives you a way to trim and get a pretty straight edge. And if you have sewing scissors, those are even better. And these scissors work great, but sewing scissors, this will be done in one swoop. And there you go. Okay, so we have lots of time. We have a half an hour left. A couple things we could do. I could keep knotting this one, or I could start another one and show you the 2-strand version. The 2-strand looks like this. And I did something different on this one. I did the same kind of knotting technique as I did with the wax linen to start this tassel, but then I took another color of pearl cotton and did a silk wrap. So that's another option you can do. And then I let it have, a different color hanging here.
Danielle,
yeah.
This is Carmi from John Bead. I think you should definitely start another one. But just before we leave the 4-strand, is it possible for you to just demonstrate one more time how you add a knot at the end? Someone's having some difficulty adding a knot after the 16 beads.
Oh, okay, yeah, so show one more repeat here.
Would you mind? Yes.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Okay, so I still have the needles actually on this one, so I'm going to go ahead and find those ends. So finding the ends, that's the fun part of this design, is you got to kind of separate out each strand again. And now I'm picking up 4 beads. And slide that down. And choose the next one. And just kind of sticking with that same convention with, 4 beads on each strand and 2 different colors. You can do any colors. Okay. And so I've got all 16 of the beads. There's 4 on each strand, on each of the 4 strands. And I'm just pushing them down so that they're as close to that last knot that I made as possible. And then just go ahead and take all 4 strands and wrap them around your fingers. And then bring all 4 strands through that loop we just made. So through the loop here. And all those little strands with the needle ends, the needles stay on there with the wax linen. That's the really cool part. So let's bring that through. And then you'll need the tweezers again. I sat mine somewhere. Yeah, they are. Actually right here. All right, and so we just went through the loop with the 4 strands. Now I'm gonna bring the tweezers through that loop. And then I'm gonna pick up all 4 strands in between the pinches of the tweezers. So here you see I've got my loop. And I've got the tweezers pinching all 4 of the strands right at the top of the beads. And so what happens now when I pull my knot tighter, is my knot stays right where we want it to sit, right on top of those beads. And then when you pull the tweezers out, you're going to have the space that the tweezers left. So to fix that, separate the strands and pull them apart. And the knot gets really tight then. You could even take the other strands, because there's 4, and do the same thing with just the 2 on each side. But I find that it works fine just to pull 2 apart and do that. I can do that one more time if that helps. And then, of course, what happens with every knot is all of these guys at the end, they start to get all tangled. But the best way to untangle them is to start here and just start pulling this way. And that is the best way to get the knots open. Don't try to take the top and start pulling them apart. That propagates the knot. But this way you can just start separating strands out. And I forgot that at the beginning, and sure enough, right in the first one that I was making with you guys, I had a knot like right away. So here's 4 more beads. Bring that down.
Danielle, this is Carmi.
Hey.
Just a sidebar question. Is this a project where people should really stick to the outline measurements, or if they run out of thread, they could add more?
So here's what I just noticed with all of my examples, I was getting a really consistent ratio of, just 3 inches, 5 repeats. But then when I did this one, I think just because I'm on camera and I'm pulling the knots extra tight, I'm getting 3.5. So, 2, 3, 4. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's kind of consistent. There we go. There's 5 right there, right? And 3 inches. Yeah. So I think adding thread. Okay. So you can add thread, but you're going to see where you did that because it's going to be thicker.
Yep.
I would recommend just getting ahead of that problem and measuring it to be the length that you want. And I'm feeling more encouraged now that I'm seeing that it's been repeatable roughly 3 inches for 5 repeats. So you would want to cut 5 inches of thread for every 3 inches of length that you're looking for, because the thread, the knots are going to consume length as you go. So in the times that I've made these here at home, what I found is about that a measurement works. And then if you want, put some extra on there, because extra doesn't hurt. Another 10 inches maybe might give you just what you need if your knots are tighter or looser than mine are today. I would say go with that. But yeah, adding length, like if you really needed to add length, you would have to do kind of like a 2 knots together, and then you would trim the ends, and you'd want to glue it, but gluing wax linen can be a little tricky. The glue tends to flake off of the wax when you put the glue on it. So there may be a glue out there that I don't know about that would do great, but in my experience, I've had trouble with gluing it and having it not turn white and flaky.
Thank you, Danielle. That answers that question.
Okay, great. I have run into that before, though. Typically when I'm doing malas, I've had thread break, and that's usually a different kind of cord, but then you're like, oh, you really need to add thread because I spent 2 hours knotting this thing, and there's ways to do it, but you can always see it. I know there's some experts out there that have a way of making them as minimally visible as possible, but I'm always interested in learning more about that. Okay, so here's, I'm just gonna do one more knot here since we're still doing pretty good for time. And so there's 4 beads on each strand. Bring it around. All 4 strands through the loop. Tweezers go through the loop, and then pinch all 4 strands just above the beads. So just like that. And pull tight. And there you go. And that's it. I would just keep going until I had about 7 inches left over here, and then do a repeat of what we did on this side of the tassel. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys the 2-strand version really quick. It's the same as the 4-strand version, and you cut about the same thread ratios. I found the 2-strand version does use less thread to knot. No idea why that's the case, but it does a little bit, but not enough to really make a change to the instructions. It's in the noise. So just cut about the same as you would for the 4-strand design, but you only need to cut 2 strands. And I'm doing 36 inches to get me a beaded length of about 13 inches or so. And that's including my 7-inch tails on either side. Okay. So the first thing you'll want to do is measure 7 inches from the bottom. So here's the bottom of my thread, cord, and there's 7 inches right there. And the tweezers we needed, so I'll have those handy. Loop around. And I'm using my thumb to kind of hold the spot where those 7 inches are. And I'm going to go through the loop and pinch the strands. And pull tight. And on the 2-strand design, that knot gets pretty tight even without doing this step, but if you wanted to move it a little bit, you could do that. Okay, and now I'm going to need to borrow 2 of the needles off of my other strands here. So I'm going to remove those. Okay. I'm going to fold that over. There's one more. And so now, let's see, I'll just do 4 beads on each strand. I'll do the same colors as we did before. And bring that down to the knot. And then I'm going to get 4 gold here. Okay. So you've got 4 beads on each strand. And same thing as we did before, just kind of loop around. Tweezers going through the loop and pinch both strands and then pull tight. Woo! So I just broke my thread there. That does happen on occasion. Luckily, it happened at the beginning of one. So you could either start over here, or since I got that question earlier, tempted to answer it by showing another trick. Okay, so here's what I did. Brought it through the kernel. I'm calling this a kernel, sorry. The 2 bead strands. Bring that strand through, let it hang down a little bit. Do another overhand knot. And you'll be able to see this. You'll be able to see what I did if you're looking really closely, but maybe that's okay. All right. Tie a knot here. And pull apart. Gentler than last time. Okay. And so this is where we get like, well, do I want to glue? I don't really want to glue it. I'm going to go ahead and just trim it. I could knot it again just to be doubly sure, but I think it'll hold. And there. So there's what it looks like if you try to splice new thread on. You can kind of see the knot's a little bigger. But is that the end of the world? No, still looks good. All right. So I'm adding 4 beads, 4 beads. And this one's kind of cool. I put the colors on different sides. All right, and so that's the 2-strand design in a nutshell. Hey, Carmi, do you think show the tassel one more time?
Yes.
Yes, okay. All right, because I've got one ready to go. I'm gonna bring this one back and put the tassel on this end.
Danielle, do you happen to recall the color of the yellow floss that you used? Because in the handout, we have the burgundy marked.
Oh, yeah, I have that. Looks like. Okay, so I'm not a embroiderer with threads, so you guys have to tell me what these numbers mean. There's a number that says 272-1057. I think that is actually the SKU for Michaels.
But no color.
Well, it doesn't give me a name. I'm looking. It gives me the number 725 here at the bottom. I bet that's the color.
I agree.
Yeah, okay, there we go. Yeah, 725. And that's DMC. And you know what I can do before the end of class is I can just scan this barcode with my phone and it will come up and I can get you guys for sure the Michaels SKU number for that. Okay, so let's see, we're on the 4-strand again. And I'm gonna add the tassel to this end here. So I've got a lot of extra length because it's not a finished one, but I'm gonna pull my needles off the end. Here's that one. Are there any needles left on that? Looks like I got them. Okay, So I'm going to separate the strands. And you remember earlier we cut one of those skeins in half. And so this is that other half, and I'm folding it in half again to find the middle. Put the middle here. And just an overhand knot. And so what I did is I went through the loop with my tweezers. There's my loop. And I pinched all 4 strands with the tweezers. And I'm going to pull tight here. Tighten that down. Fold that forward. Okay. And so I've got one strand exiting one side and one strand exiting the other side. And so I'm just going to cross them. And then flip it over. Cross them on that side. Same thing again. I'm trying to keep it tight. One of the ways I'm keeping it tight is I'm pinching it. And then you can use your other fingers to hold one side while you pull the other side over. And I think that kind of matches what I did on the other side. Okay. And then that's that same knot again. Pinching here to make it tight. Flipping over. Pull all 4 strands through the loop. Tweezers through the loop. And then pinch those 4 strands there. And pull tight. There you go. Okay. And I've got a lot of extra length there. How are we doing? We're still doing good on time, so I'm going to go ahead and add another charm so you guys can see that one more time. These are bent nose pliers, and these are flat nose. This is just you know, my style. You can do any you know, what's it called, jump ring opening style that you like, but for me, I think this works really well. And I just remove them right from the card. They come with a jump ring. Close that again. Okay, and then just choose a side and put the strands from that side through the jump ring. Oh, one thing to think about though is what direction. Definitely want to go that way. Just kind of lay the charm on top of the strands and see. I'll show you what I mean when I bring this back down. But you see how it's going to lay that way now. That's what we wanted to do. Sorry, it'll lay that direction. Okay, so now I've got this strand is through the jump ring, and this strand is not through the jump ring. Bring them both together and do that same knot again. Try to keep the tassel out of the way. Going through the loop and pinch all 4 strands. And pull tight. And so I've got a little pucker there. I'm going to pull each strand individually. You'll see it when you're working. If you get one strand that's not cooperating with your knot, I got it. There we go. Okay. There you go. And that's it. and still good on time. So I'm going to show you the trimming idea again. So this was the paper that came with the needles. Actually works really great for trimming the tassel. So, and also the next thing I wanted to do was just look at the length. So for starters, I want to match the length of my wax linen. I let that just kind of hang there. I thought that looked nice. Do the same thing on this side. So that matches. And now I want to cut off about that much. Okay, so to do that, rolling it up. Okay, I'm going to do one more measure against my other tassel. Look about right. And then trim. And so I do have a pair of sewing scissors that I used on my other ones. They worked really well, but I feel like this works fine too. Okay. And that's it. That's the one way to make a beaded garland. There's lots of ways, but there's my version. And I have lots of extra time, so if anyone has any questions or something they want to see while I'm still here on the mat.
Danielle, from the sidebar, you had a couple of questions. One was, what would be your recommendation for displaying it?
Oh, so I've seen them kind of laid on, like, so the longer ones laid on dining room tables as part of like the table runner decor. Wouldn't it be pretty with one of these from the class we had before, a matched one? And so just imagine that on your table as like a little display. Just a little decoration. The other thing I see a lot is having them hung on cabinet knobs. And that's usually a shorter length one. So one more like this, just over the knobs of the, and what you could do if you wanted to is you could join them so it would hang over a knob. But yeah, sky's the limit. Entry tables like around, my mom has one of those little villages, you know, those like house Christmas villages. And she takes these, yeah, she takes and she does that around the display kind of just to make it look festive. Yeah, and any other questions?
You know, on the sidebar, you're getting lots of thank yous for teaching people how to do some knotting, which is great. It's a simple class. Your photograph made it look a lot more difficult than it turned out to be. So that's the great news tonight.
Oh yeah, super easy. I need a nice, easy holiday project.
I have also had a few questions on the sidebar if we were teaching classes right through to the holidays. And I did say yes. I don't know if you want to show the next class.
Yeah, I have them all. Why don't I start with next week's, the earrings? And these are, you know, I might switch back to my other camera really quick so you guys can see some detail. This is the earrings that we're going to do next week. You'll recognize the charms I just used. And these are hoops from Michaels. The SKU numbers for all of the things that I've used are on the handout that is downloadable when you register. But you could use a different hoop size, and I will talk about that during class. And then let's see, right after that, we're going into, I named this one Raspberry Chocolate Swirl, but it's size 10 iris brown seed beads. You could use 11s. So I've made this same design with 11s and 10s, and both of them work. And in fact, you'll notice when you download the handout for this, I kind of interchangeably say 11 and 10. You can use whatever you like. The bead size here is 8mm, but you can use 6mm. And we'll just change the counts until you get a loop that looks good. The rest of the technique, this is a beginner friendly, easy, fun design. So that's the first class in December. And then the second class is in January. And then the third class is in February. And then the fourth class is in March. And then the fifth class is in April. And then the sixth class is in May. And then the seventh class is in October. And then the eighth class is in November. And then the ninth class is in December. And then the 10th class is in January. And then the 11th class is in December. And then the 12th class is in January. And then the 13th class is in February. And then the 14th class is in March. And then the 15th class is in April. And then the 16th class is in May. And then the 17th class is in June. And then the 18th class is in July. And then the 19th class is in August. And then the 20th class is in September. And then the 21st class is in October. And then the 22nd class is in November. And then the 23rd class is in December. And then the 24th class is in January. And then the 25th class is in The second class in December, this was a really fun one. I kind of went crazy stitching on ball chain. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen brick stitch done on ball chain before, but here's a couple versions of my own. That's just with size 8 seed beads. I liked that because I thought it had a kind of, you know, just like it looks Egyptian. It's very cool, very Art Deco. And then here's one done with 2-hole tiles. And I've got one more. These are both beginner, and there's one intermediate with super duos and a little Czech glass drop. So all of these beads that I've used here and the ball chain, all of the part numbers are on the handout that you'll find when you register for the class. So that's class number 2 in December. And then last but not least, we love these ones. We were having a very fun time with doing the photography for this and just kind of deciding, this is called, I called it the statement earring. It has a lot of rings. For a while, I was just calling them the big earrings. And I'll show you why in a second. I'll have to put a pair on, but they are very cool looking. So silk tassels, these are pre-made tassels from Michaels. Again, part numbers are all in the handout. And these are the new connectors, the U connectors that they have in shop. A little bit of wire work. Don't be afraid. This is easy wire work, and I'll walk you through it really slow. And the unique thing about this and what sets it apart from these earrings is this is a uniform shape, and it's kind of easy to brick stitch on uniform shapes, but this one's not. And we start at the top, and I'll show you a trick for how to start brick stitch on a shape that's not uniform. All right. And so that's the last class in December. And then we take a break for Christmas, and we're for the holidays, and then we're back in January. But there's, see what I mean? The big earrings. Very cool, very stylish, very New Year's. I'm excited to teach this one because I really like them.
They look great with what you're wearing today.
I know, I think I'm gonna need to wear them. I'll go downstairs, my kids will be like, Mom, your earrings are so big. Yeah, they're big because they're awesome.
If your kids are anything like mine, if I'm not wearing sweatpants, where are you going?
Where are you going? They're like, can I come?
Yeah.
So true.
Last but not least, people are curious because you said it in another class. Is it your birthday?
Oh, no, that was flat chenille. I did my favorite stitch on my birthday. So that was last week.
We missed it.
That's okay. I didn't announce it. Well, I did before, and then I was like, oh, that's cheesy. So yeah, but it's still awesome.
From everyone, happy belated birthday. And again, lots of wonderful comments for a great class, and look forward to seeing everyone again.
Awesome. We'll see you guys next week.